time to get it how they wanted it, but it was all worthwhile in the end because the end result was obviously successful.
As we've discussed, none of the competitors within any of the horse rings at the Highland Show could manage without those who work behind the scenes, such as vets, grooms and farriers.
My name's Robb. I'm an associate of the Whistle Company of Farriers, and I've shod in and around the borders for 30 years, and I've spent 40 years learning how to shoe horses. Some will say that the training's only 5 years, but the truth of the matter is that you never stop learning. As far as competitions go, I find that competing for me just brings another level. It means that I learn new skills, and it keeps my eye on the ball, maintaining my quality. My baptism of fire at the Highland Show was roughly 30 years ago, and at that time it was in an old tin covered shed with a canvas bit out the front. In those days they used coal, and the coal fires were extremely hot. I remember coming into the forge and seeing these massive big volcanoes in each fire. They kept these fires there's a real art to using coal, and that's what I find the competition so good. You're basically passing knowledge on. The younger lads can go, they can come and watch us working, and they learn from that.
Because, as long as people compete and ride horses, we're always going to need new farriers coming through. Yeah,
I mean, I'm getting to the stage now where I'm starting to ease back a bit. I've trained 9 apprentices, my daughter being one of them. It's also been really amazing to see the Scottish Farrier team develop. The Highland Show offered us the forge as a sort of permanent home for the Scottish Farrier. We now use that for team practices throughout the year. Obviously this year's been very different. We know the facilities are really good. So we have a great depth of horseshoeing skills in Scotland, and like I say, the Highland Show is definitely an integral part of that, and helping to promote the skills. And I think also it's a great, from a competitor's point of view, it's great to see so many public come and watch us as well, because obviously they hear the anvil going, they smell the smoke, and it does bring them in, so it's a great crowd puller as well.
And you can see why, because I almost wish we had video here instead of a podcast, because it's fascinating for people to see and to watch. We've talked to show jumpers and Clydesdale breeders and Highland Pony breeders throughout this episode, and you probably wouldn't use this term to describe yourself, but they talk about the unsung heroes of the horsey world, because they're out in the ring competing, but they couldn't do what they do without the farrier and the vet and the groom and everybody that supports them. You probably wouldn't call yourself an unsung hero, but do you find that you get a good deal of thanks for your contribution in the whole cycle?
We get some. Obviously, the skill in this job is keeping and maintaining horses sound.
Yeah.
Occasionally we'll get problems like laminitis or conformational problems, and obviously we have to pull out that little bit extra for them.
Yes.
But I think, again, to be good at the job is to be able to maintain soundness in horses, and that's where competing helps, is just maintaining your standard, keeping your eye on the ball,
And I'm talking to you as lockdown restrictions are easing, but farriery is obviously extremely important for animal welfare. So you've been a key worker and out and about doing your job throughout
Yeah, and
lockdown,
again, I think
you?
we probably haven't. Well, we don't seek recognition. We're just doing our job. But yeah, I think if we hadn't been out doing our job, we would have a lot of welfare issues by now. We have all sorts of things that affect the feet, the weather being one of them. With after having such a really long wet winter and then a real dry spell, you know, the feet tend to suffer one way or the other.
Just before we finish up, one last word with Highland Show director Anne Logan on something that's become a bit of a theme for this episode: the importance of winning versus the love of just being involved with horses and with the show.
The taking part is important, but winning the Rosette is the ultimate, undoubtedly. I mean, people will treasure their rosettes from the Royal Highland. I mean, if you ask the equine photographer, I mean, he's inundated with people just buying the photograph of them, not just competing at the Highland Show, but then if they actually are in the lineup and win a prize, then they'll probably buy 2, 3 or 4 photographs, because it's a memory that they will always have.
Absolutely. But I suppose also that's where equestrian sports perhaps differ from golf, as an example, in that you're dealing with a living, breathing animal that you have a huge bond with, as well as the fact that that animal is something that you compete with. And do you think that makes equestrian sports, for that reason, a bit different to others?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, because whether you're showing them on the flat or you're riding them or you're show jumping, it's a partnership with your animal. And there's a passion there for that animal. So, yeah, absolutely. It's a partnership and a combination of success.
Many thanks to Anne and to everyone we've heard from this time. This has been a particularly enjoyable episode of OnFARM for me to be involved in, because horses are one of my real passions. I hope that you have enjoyed it too. It was certainly inspiring to speak to so many other people with the same passion, as well as those with a bit more skill and perhaps more patience than I think I am probably blessed with. As we've said before, please do help us to share these episodes if you can. If you know anyone who is yet to listen to OnFARM, surely not, but who loves horses, this episode might be the perfect introduction. So please do help us spread the word. Monty and I will both be with you next time for a joint episode looking at history and heritage associated with the Royal Highland Society, the Royal Highland Show and Scottish rural life in general. So we'll see you then.